It's over, Kyle texted. Collect your belongings from the storage unit. I stood in disbelief, my phone's harsh glow illuminating my weary face as I lingered in the dimly lit corridor of what used to be my apartment building. The new lock on the door gleamed under the overhead light, as alien to me as the coldness in Kyle's message. My name is Samantha Delaney. I'm 47 years old, and I've just spent 10 days sleeping on waiting room chairs while my sister Vanessa underwent emergency surgery. 10 days of hospital cafeteria sandwiches and coffee from vending machines. 10 days away from my husband of 15 years, and that was apparently all it took for him to decide our marriage was over. I slid down the wall, my legs unable to bear my weight. The hallway security light flickered, casting eerie shadows on the floor. With trembling fingers, I scrolled through Kyle's other messages. Your things are in Unit 23B at Westside Storage. Keys under the mat. I pawned your jewelry. It wasn't worth much anyway. Sold the Toyota. You never drove it. My grandmother's antique locket. My wedding ring. The pearl earrings Kyle gave me on our 10th anniversary. All gone. The car I had saved for years to buy, sold without my knowledge or permission. I pressed my hand against the door that once opened to the life we had built together. Teaching jobs at the same high school. Weekend trips to Lake Tahoe. Quiet nights grading papers side by side. 15 years of memories now locked behind a door I couldn't open. Something cold and hard settled in my chest. In that silent hallway in Reno, Nevada, I made a decision. I would not scream. I would not plead. I would not call him incessantly or camp outside the apartment. Instead, I typed a single message. You'll regret this. Then I blocked his number. I found the storage key exactly where he said it would be and took a taxi across town. Unit 23B was small and dusty, containing only a few cardboard boxes and garbage bags. My books, my clothes, some kitchen utensils he didn't want. 15 years of marriage reduced to less than 100 cubic feet of discarded items. That night I stayed at a budget motel near the hospital so I could visit Vanessa in the morning. As I lay on the scratchy bedspread, staring at the ceiling's water stains, I realized something that should have terrified me, but instead felt strangely liberating. I had nothing left to lose. I never imagined starting over at 47, but life often throws unexpected challenges. Sometimes those surprises feel like a betrayal. Kyle and I met at a teachers' conference in Sacramento 20 years ago. He taught physical education while I taught art. We bonded over shared frustrations with budget cuts and administrators who didn't appreciate the importance of creative expression in education. Kyle was so charming then, remembering everyone's name and never forgetting a birthday. He brought me coffee every morning just the way I liked it and helped hang student artwork before exhibitions. The kind of person I thought would never leave me. Our marriage wasn't perfect. Whose is? We'd been struggling since Kyle missed out on the athletic director position he wanted. He withdrew, spending more time at the gym and less with me. I suggested therapy, but he dismissed it, saying we just needed some time. Then Vanessa's appendix ruptured and everything changed. My sister had no one else. Our parents were gone, and she'd never married. I couldn't leave her alone fighting for her life in that hospital. I thought Kyle understood. I thought 15 years of marriage earned me at least that much trust. I was wrong. The morning after finding myself locked out, I sat in Vanessa's hospital room, trying to keep my voice steady as I recounted what happened. That absolute bastard, she whispered, her face still pale from surgery. I'll kill him. No, I replied, surprised at my own calm. You need to focus on getting better. I'll figure this out. Where will you go? What will you do? The monitors tracking her heart rate beeped faster, reflecting her distress. I held her hand, feeling oddly protective despite my own life having just imploded. I've got some savings. Not much, but enough to rent a small place for a few months. And I've been considering that arts administration program at the university. Maybe it's time I finally applied. Sam, Vanessa said, using my childhood nickname, you don't have to pretend with me. It's okay to fall apart. I gazed out the window at the Sierra Nevada mountains in the distance, their peaks dusted with early snow. I'm not pretending, I replied. I'm just done wasting time on someone who could discard 15 years so effortlessly. That night, I found an affordable small studio apartment on my teacher's salary, conveniently located near the school where I worked. It had just enough space for my downsized belongings. While unpacking my few remaining items, I stumbled upon something Kyle had overlooked. My portfolio of digital artwork backed up on an external hard drive. 3 months after Kyle changed the locks, divorce papers arrived in the mail. He cited irreconcilable differences as the reason for our split. The clinical term almost made me chuckle, given the reality of coming home to find myself homeless, my possessions gone, and my marriage ended through a text. The legal document outlined our shared assets, with Kyle having claimed everything of value: the apartment, the furniture, our joint savings. He'd even taken half of my retirement fund. According to his lawyer, I was entitled to nothing more, as I had supposedly abandoned the marriage by staying with my sister during her health crisis. I sat at my small kitchen table, staring at the papers until the words blurred. The pain I had been suppressing threatened to consume me. For a moment, I thought about calling Kyle, demanding answers, and fighting for what was rightfully mine. Then my phone buzzed with a notification, an email from the university. I had been accepted into the Arts Administration program with a partial scholarship. Classes would begin in 6 weeks. It felt like a sign. I could spend months, maybe years, battling Kyle in court for material possessions, or I could channel that energy into rebuilding my life. I signed the divorce papers without contesting his claims, much to the dismay of the lawyer Vanessa had insisted I consult. "He's walking away with everything," the attorney cautioned. "You're entitled to much more than this." "I know what I'm entitled to," I replied, "and I'll get it back in my own way." That night, I called my principal and resigned from my teaching position, effective at the end of the semester. 20 years in the public school system concluded with a 10-minute conversation. I felt a fleeting regret for the students I'd leave behind, but I knew it was necessary. I couldn't risk running into Kyle in the faculty lounge or parking lot. I couldn't teach where whispers of my failed marriage would follow me. When I told Vanessa my decision, she was skeptical. "You're letting him win," she argued. "That school was your life before him." "That's the problem," I said. "Everything in Reno reminds me of Kyle. The school, our favorite restaurants, the park where we strolled on Sundays. I need a fresh start." "And then what?" she asked. "You'll get your degree?" I showed her the digital art portfolio I'd been working on. Illustrations, animations, interactive designs created over the years as a hobby. "There are art therapy programs using digital tools to help people process trauma," I explained. "I've been researching them. With my teaching background and this degree, I could create something similar." Vanessa examined my work, her expression softening. "These are beautiful, Sam, but art therapy programs take years to establish, and you need to eat in the meantime." "I've applied for a night job at the university library," I said. "Between that and my scholarship, I'll manage." "I have to try, Van. I need something that's completely mine." As I left her house that evening, the winter sun setting behind the mountains, I felt the first stirrings of something I hadn't experienced since finding that new lock on my apartment door. Hope. My new life developed a rhythm: days in class, evenings at the library, late nights working on my portfolio. I barely had time to think about Kyle or what I'd lost, which was exactly what I needed. 6 months into the program, Professor Winters approached me after her grant writing seminar. She was a formidable woman in her 60s with silver hair and piercing blue eyes that seemed to see right through you. "Your project proposal was exceptional," she stated, her tone matter-of-fact. "The digital art therapy concept has potential." "Thank you," I replied, trying not to show how much her approval meant to me. "There's a summer fellowship available through the Carson Foundation. It provides funding for innovative arts initiatives with social impact." She handed me a brochure. "The deadline is next week. I suggest you apply." That night, I stayed up until dawn refining my proposal: an accessible digital art therapy program designed for people experiencing major life transitions, such as divorce, bereavement, or illness. Users would engage in guided creative exercises to process their emotions through visual expression. I called it Canvas Art Therapy Reimagined. 2 months later, I received the fellowship. The $15,000 I received wasn't life-altering, but it was sufficient to create a pilot for the program. I enlisted a programmer from the computer science department to assist with building the platform, dedicating all my spare time to crafting content. By the time I completed my master's degree, Canvas was primed for a limited unveiling. We invited 50 individuals to test the program, including cancer patients, those recently divorced, and people who had lost loved ones. Their feedback was overwhelmingly positive. For the first time, I can express what I'm feeling without having to find the words, one participant noted. I look forward to my Canvas time every evening, wrote another. It's helping me rebuild myself. Using the remainder of my fellowship funds, I secured a modest office in downtown Reno. It wasn't much, just a desk, a computer, and a view of the city where my old life had unraveled. But it was mine. On the first anniversary of the day Kyle changed the locks, I officially launched Canvas. The first month saw 30 subscribers. By the second month, there were 50. By the third, over 100 people were regularly using the platform. It wasn't enough to support me financially, so I continued working 4 nights a week at the university library. But the platform was growing. Then came the email that changed everything. Miss Delaney, I'm a producer with National Morning. One of our staff members has been using your Canvas program to cope with her mother's cancer diagnosis, and she shared her experience with our team. We're interested in featuring Canvas in our Innovations in Mental Health segment. Would you be available for an interview? My hands trembled as I read the email. National Morning was watched by millions across the nation. This kind of exposure could transform Canvas from a struggling startup into a recognized brand overnight. I immediately called Vanessa. This is it, she exclaimed, her voice filled with excitement. This is how you show Kyle what he threw away. I paused, realizing something significant. I haven't thought about Kyle in months, I said slowly. This isn't about him anymore. It's about what I've created. And it was true. Somewhere in the late nights and early mornings, in the code reviews and content creation, in the feedback sessions and grant applications, I stopped defining myself by what I'd lost. I had become someone new, someone I preferred over the woman who had been so devastated in that hallway. The day before the interview was set to air, I had an unexpected visitor at my small office. Janet, a former colleague from the high school art department, stood at the doorway, looking uneasy. I hope you don't mind me stopping by, she said. I saw the promos for your interview tomorrow, and, well, I thought you should know Kyle's been fired. Janet perched on the edge of the chair across from my desk, clearly uncomfortable with her role as bearer of news. He's been selling equipment from the athletic department, she explained. Weights, uniforms, even electronics from the coach's office. The new athletic director noticed inventory discrepancies and started investigating. They found receipts from pawn shops all over town. I felt a strange detachment as I processed this news. How long had it been going on? Over 2 years, apparently. It started small, but lately, she hesitated. Things haven't been going well for him since you left. He's been drinking a lot, missing classes. The administration was already on the verge of disciplinary action when this came to light. 2 years. That timeline wasn't lost on me. Kyle's theft had begun around the time he withdrew from our marriage, long before Vanessa's emergency or the locked apartment door. There's more, Janet said, her voice lowering. The car? Your Toyota? The police are investigating the sale. Apparently, Kyle forged your signature on the title transfer. The new owner tried to register it, and the DMV flagged it. I thought about the car I had saved for years to buy. The car Kyle sold without my knowledge or consent. The car's loss symbolized the complete dismantling of my independence. Will they press charges? I asked. It's a felony, Sam. Title fraud, forgery. They're serious crimes. He could face jail time. I should have felt vindicated. Wasn't this what I had promised when I texted, "You'll regret this"? But instead, I felt hollow. The man Janet described, drinking, stealing, forging documents, was a stranger to me. After she left, I sat in my quiet office, watching the sun set over the mountains. My interview was scheduled for 7 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow, 4 a.m. in Nevada. I should have been reviewing my talking points, preparing for questions. Instead, I was thinking about Kyle, trying to reconcile the man I married with the person he had become. My phone buzzed with an incoming call. The number was unfamiliar, but the Reno area code told me enough. I answered without speaking. Samantha. Kyle's voice was rougher than I recalled, tinged with desperation. Please don't hang up. I stayed silent. I saw the promo for your interview. You look really good. I'm happy for you. Still, I said nothing. I know you know about the school, about the car. I messed up, Sam. I messed everything up. His voice cracked. I've been trying to call you for months, over a year. 365 calls. You never answered. I wasn't aware of the calls. I had blocked his number that night in the hallway and never unblocked it. Any messages he'd sent vanished into the digital void. Say something, please. Finally, I responded. What do you want, Kyle? I want to apologize. I want to explain. I don't need your explanation, I replied, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. Whatever you did, whatever your reasons, it doesn't matter anymore. Sam, no, I said firmly. You don't get to call me that. You don't get to pretend we're still close. You discarded me like I meant nothing. You sold my belongings. You locked me out of my own home. I was desperate, he whispered. I had gambling debts. I was scared and foolish. And stop, I interrupted. I'm not interested in your excuses. You made your choices. Now face the consequences. There was a long pause. When he spoke again, his voice was hollow. The police want me to turn myself in tomorrow. Then that's what you should do. Will you be back from New York by then? Could we meet just once? I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of our shared history pressing down on me. 15 years of marriage, the good days and the bad, the life we'd built, and how it had ended. No, I finally said. I don't think that would be helpful for either of us. I ended the call before he could respond, then shut off my phone completely. I had an early flight to catch and a new future to embrace. Kyle belonged to my past. The National Morning Studio buzzed with activity. Production assistants with headsets rushed past. Camera operators adjusted equipment, and makeup artists tended to the hosts and guests. In the green room, I sipped water, trying to calm my nerves. 5 minutes, Miss Delaney. A young woman with a clipboard informed me. I nodded, smoothing the sleeves of my blue blazer, the most professional piece in my limited wardrobe. Beneath the jacket, my heart pounded against my ribs. You're going to be great, the makeup artist assured me, applying a final touch of powder. Just remember to look at Jessica, not the camera. Jessica Chen, the host of the Innovation segment, was known for thoughtful interviews. Still, I ran through potential questions in my mind, rehearsing answers about Canvas, its development, and its impact. What I wasn't prepared for was her first question after the cameras started rolling. Samantha, Canvas was born from your own experience with loss and transition. Can you tell us about that journey? I froze momentarily. In all our pre-interview communications, we'd focused on the program itself, not my personal history. But as I looked into Jessica's kind eyes, I realized this was an opportunity to reach people who might be where I had been, hollow and hurting, needing a way forward. 2 years ago, I began. I came home to find the locks changed on my apartment door. My husband had ended our 15-year marriage via text, sold my car, and pawned my jewelry. I smiled slightly, aware of the camera but speaking directly to Jessica. It was disorienting, to say the least. Jessica's expression was perfectly balanced between empathy and professional interest. How did you move from that moment of crisis to creating Canvas? I explained my journey, the arts administration program, the fellowship, the late nights developing content. As I spoke, I realized how far I'd come from that night in the hallway. Canvas isn't just about processing grief or trauma, I concluded. It's about reclaiming your narrative, finding beauty and meaning amidst chaos. It's about rebuilding. The interview flew by. We discussed the scientific foundations of art therapy, demonstrated how the program worked, and shared testimonials from users. Before I knew it, Jessica was wrapping up the segment. Canvas is currently available for individual subscribers, but you have bigger plans, correct? I nodded. We're launching an institutional platform next month for hospitals, counseling centers, and schools. We've already partnered with 3 major healthcare networks to offer Canvas to their patients. Impressive growth for a program that began as a personal healing journey. Thank you for sharing your story with us today, Samantha. As the camera stopped rolling, Jessica leaned over. That was fantastic. You're a natural. Back in the green room, I checked my phone. It had been less than 5 minutes since the segment aired, but my inbox was already filling with messages. The Canvas website had crashed from the traffic surge. My personal email was flooded with interview requests from 3 different news organizations and 14 partnership proposals from healthcare providers. Among these was a message titled, "I saw you on TV," sent by Kyle. Although my finger hesitated over the delete button, something compelled me to open it. He wrote, "I'm turning myself into the police this morning. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I'm truly sorry, and seeing your success is the one bright spot amidst everything. You deserve every good thing coming your way. Goodbye, Samantha." I closed the email without replying. Kyle would have to find his closure without my involvement. I had a website crash to resolve, interviews to arrange, and partnerships to assess. I was living a life that no longer revolved around the man who once thought he could discard me. 2 years after my national morning appearance, Canvas had achieved more success than I ever anticipated. We had offices in Reno and San Francisco, a team of 20, and over 1.5 million users globally. Our institutional platform was in use in hospitals nationwide, and we had recently introduced a special program for veterans with PTSD. I was back in New York, this time to accept an award at a Digital Health Innovation Gala. The event took place in a grand hotel ballroom filled with healthcare executives, tech entrepreneurs, and investors. As I watched other honorees deliver their speeches, a mix of pride and disbelief washed over me. How did the broken woman from that hallway become this person, the founder and CEO of a thriving company about to be honored by industry leaders? And now, the host announced, the Impact Award for Mental Health Innovation goes to Samantha Delaney, creator of Canvas. The applause was overwhelming as I headed to the stage. From the podium, I saw hundreds of faces, including James, my partner of 8 months, smiling proudly from our table. "Thank you," I began, my voice steady and clear. Canvas was born out of necessity. When my life fell apart, I needed a way to piece it back together. I discovered that creativity isn't just an escape, it's a path to healing. As I continued, I noticed something at the back of the room. A familiar figure stood near the exit, watching intently. Kyle, older and thinner, his once confident stance now slightly hunched. I didn't falter or acknowledge him. I simply continued discussing Canvas, our future vision, and the millions of people we aim to help. In closing, I'd like to share something a user wrote to me recently. Canvas helped me realize that my story didn't end with my loss. It was just the beginning of a new chapter. That's what I hope Canvas offers everyone who uses it, not just healing, but the chance to rewrite their story. The audience rose, applauding. From the corner of my eye, I saw Kyle quietly slip out. After the ceremony, James and I mingled with guests when an event coordinator approached me. "Miss Delaney, someone would like to speak with you privately. He says it's important." I knew who it was before she described him. "Tell him I'll meet him in the lobby in 5 minutes." James looked concerned. "Everything okay?" "It's fine," I assured him. "Just some unfinished business. I won't be long." Kyle sat on a bench near the hotel's grand entrance, looking out of place in his worn suit amidst the polished marble and crystal chandeliers. He stood as I approached. "Congratulations," he said. "I read about the award in the business section. I hope you don't mind that I came." "How did you get in?" I asked. "I told them I was with Oak Ridge Health. They're one of your partners, right?" He flashed a ghost of his old smile. "I've been following your success." I felt nothing, not anger, satisfaction, or even pity, just a profound neutrality, as though speaking to a stranger who shared some of my memories. "I served 14 months, he said when I didn't reply. "Got out early for good behavior. I'm working construction now. It's honest work." "I'm glad to hear that," I said genuinely. I bore him no ill will. I just didn't wish him anything at all. "I keep thinking about what I threw away," he continued. "Not just our marriage, but the person you were becoming. I could have been part of this." He gestured vaguely toward the ballroom. "No," I said gently. "You couldn't have. This happened because you left." He looked surprised, then seemed to understand. Canvas, my success, my new life, none of it would have existed if he hadn't locked me out that night. "I should go," I said. "My partner's waiting." "You're happy?" he asked, the question barely audible. I glanced back at the ballroom where James was engaged in conversation with his co-workers, where my trophy gleamed on the table, and where my future continued to take shape. "Yes," I replied confidently. "I am." As I walked away, Kyle's voice called out to me. "Samantha." I paused. "You were right," he admitted. "I regret it every day." I acknowledged his comment with a nod, choosing not to respond. Then I returned to the celebration, to the life I had painstakingly created, a life that was now completely mine. Reflecting on my journey from that desperate night in the hallway to launching a thriving company, I understood that true vindication isn't about causing others pain. It's about letting them witness what they've let slip away.